Andy Kent from UMI. It's getting close, Andy. It's getting close. You've just had the 25th anniversary of the album, and now the tour is about to start.
It's still happening. 30 years later, we're here again. And if you told me back then, when that record hit number one, if you'd said to me, it's also going to be number one in 30 years, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are.
Here we are. Well, that was
So,
a number one album. It actually kicked off a string of number one albums. I think it was three in a row for you and I at that point.
it was, yeah.
There wouldn't have been much of an expectation for this record being a number one record coming off the back of Sound as Ever, I guess. It was sort of, it had a bit of a cult fan group, didn't it? It wasn't, the big success that the next three became.
No, and I don't think the environment was really there for a band like us to win arias or have number one records. It wasn't a thing, 18 months prior to this record being made, no one would have bet their house on that. Do you know what I mean? Like the evolution of music and just the changes in market and what people are all of a sudden into. And, I mean, it's just the grunge shift happened and we were right there. So, you get swept up in it and all of a sudden record companies and radio and everybody's interested in it. So yeah, it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
We just were head down, bum up, working hard, and all of a sudden it was something was happening which was beyond us just touring and working hard and enjoying ourselves.
Well, the first album Sound has ever had Lee Ranaldo working with you for the first time on that. And Lee was back for the second record as well. So clearly you got along well.
Yeah, and he did one of the early EPs. Yeah, he's a lovely guy, very knowledgeable, very calm. It was a nice, I don't know, we kind of thought of him as like a very clever uncle kind of figure that we were just lucky enough to have. And it's weird that this guy's in Sonic Youth, but yet you become good friends with them and you hang out and you make records. It's sort of like two people in a way. But yeah, we were lucky that he came on board originally and it worked, and he guided it when we were touring through the US with Soundgarden. I don't know, we would have been at 40, 45 dates or something. And, normally you would just come home and crash out for a week and see your friends and family and maybe start talking about a record and getting together some point soon after. But we felt we should just get on with it. And he said, yeah, just come to New York. So, his simple, casual guidance, I think, really fit, what we were doing and the drive and the energy level of it. No one said, "Oh, you can't do that." Record labels and management were like, "Oh, okay, so that's what's happening," and we're all like, "Well, yeah, this is what Lee and us want to do," and we just went and did it.
I assume that you must have met him on one of the Sonic Youth Australian tours, maybe on one of the festivals.
Big day out, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, on the same bill, and we'd reached out to him before he got here and said to him, would he be interested in producing an EP or getting involved in an EP on some of the days off? And our manager badgered him enough, and he actually says that. He goes, the guy badgered me enough that I went, okay, why not? So if it wasn't for Todd badgering Lee, then none of this may have been exactly the same. So there you go. It pays to badger.
Well, let that be a lesson to anyone who wants to get on a Love Police tour then.
Well, I don't work for them anymore, so go and badger Brian.
Fair enough. Hi-Fi Way. The Hi-Fi Way album was the first album for Rusty Hopkinson. How did he get picked for the band?
I think, well, we went over to the US. We went to Minnesota in '92 to make Sound as Ever at Pachyderm Studios. And, Tim and I were like, holy fuck, like, where are we? As we walked in, they were airing out the main room. And let me tell you, it's a beautiful old place with a creek running through it. And there was like snow can be like seen around. Like it's in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota. Absolutely beautiful. And they were shaking out some you had all the windows and doors open, and they were airing it out, and we were like, "What's going on here?" And they said, "Oh, they've the drummer of the last session burnt his shirt because he played drums in it so much and sweated in it. It was this kind of ritual where he burnt the shirt after the session." And it was Nirvana, and they'd just finished In Utero. So we were like, holy crap, like, where are we? Lee's here. These guys have just walked out. We were about to go and see the Posies up in Minneapolis. Like, we're in the thick of it. It felt great. And then we went to New York to mix it and do some shows and hang out. And we just, I think when you're put in that situation, some people maybe don't respond as well as others or get the same thing out of it. And I think it became evident near the end of that trip that, it wasn't really for Mark. And Tim and I were loving it. It was our girlfriends flew over and we all went on journeys. And I think Mark just felt it was a bit, not what he kind of wanted. So it sort of highlighted that maybe it wasn't for him. Maybe we weren't sort of built from the same thing. And so we got talking in New York about, maybe what could happen. And Russell's name came up and Tim called him from New York and he was working for a record label and yeah, he dived at it. So we all got together at some point when we got back and yeah, best move we've ever made. Great.
So he was in a band, Nursery Crime. Were you very familiar with that
Yeah,
band?
very familiar, played with him a lot. And yeah, we knew Russell's playing, like we knew what he was capable of. We knew the energy and the skill level and the intellect of the man. So we knew exactly what we are getting into. We just wondered how it would fit with us.
Mm.
And it fit really well. So after the first few rehearsals, I suppose there was a trial period, but not really. We just kind of got on with it. Yeah. So that's a big part of this record is that change.
And also the fact you were still a three-piece at that point. At which point did Davey come along and make it a four-piece? What album was his first album?
I believe it was Deliverance.
Hmm.
I might be wrong, but yeah, around that era, around that
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Um, yeah, he was he was very young, and had knew all the songs back to front, and yeah, he just had talent. So same again. You got to be thankful for who joins your band, I think.
There were so many great songs on this record. One of the ones that wasn't a single and didn't get a lot of focus, Punkarella, was really showing your Who influences, I thought.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, kind of has a rambunctiousness. It could even be a replacement song. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got harmonies. It's a pop song, but yeah, it kind of goes for it. It's driving. So yeah.
Have you performed every song off this album before?
Well, we did this tour 10 years ago and people loved it. I think we ended up doing 4 forums or something, a couple of in-laws. So yeah, we've done it before and but some of the songs off this record don't get a Guernsey unless it's this particular, event.
Mm.
So yeah, it's good to pull them out and this is really for people to come and enjoy those two records and they know and they would have seen over the years the songs that they love that we play regularly, but there's so many good deep cuts on this record that if you know the records well, there's a lot in it, I think.
Yeah, there was that very clever title, Ken, the Other Nature's Son. And when you listen to the song, it just sounds like Mother Nature's son. Who's Ken?
No idea.
No,
No idea.
not Ken from the Big Day Out.
No, not Ken West, no.
No, no. Kathy's Clown. That was the big one. Still, it just sounds like a great song even today. It really hasn't aged, that one, has it?
It's hard for me to tell. I've played it too many times to know what it is.
Mm. Do certain songs stand out as, oh, that should be a single, or that's an album track, or that's something that is on the album but will rarely get played? Was that all obvious at the time that you released the record?
I mean, some things, yes. Some things leap out and it's fairly evident, what it is, but others you don't really know. I remember in the past we would actually play songs before they were recorded, or at least before they were released. And some songs people just get, and you might play them at a gig, and they're instantly like, "What the hell is this?" And you could feel coming back at you some reaction positively. And in other songs, you don't get it, you don't get anything because they never heard them, you know. So it's interesting what captures people and what doesn't.
Mm. You haven't done a show, I don't think, since mid 2024. When did the rehearsal start for this tour?
We haven't started. We usually meet up in the morning of the first show, have a quick chat, and then we're off.
Is that right?
Almost. Couple- We do two rehearsals. We do two rehearsals. And
Wow.
you know what? But the guys are pretty lazy. They'll rifle through the street press and have a bitch about something, grab a coffee and a sandwich, play some, and then we'll feel all right about it. No, we
But
got
it
to
just
we got
falls into place, does it?
well, hopefully. The joke within the band is, oh, can there be a long sound check at the first show? That's the joke. And that's code for we're not prepared for this. But no, we'll be well prepared and looking forward to it. You know, it comes out, it comes through the bones into the hands, and off we go. So it's not like we've never played these things before.
Yeah. Albums were a lot more frequent back then. So does that mean we're going to have a whole series of these anniversary tours coming up over the next 10 years for you or mine?
Well, I think everyone's doing it right now, it feels. I remember talking about this particular tour a couple of years ago, and then since then, in the last 24 months, it's like every other band I've ever met is having an anniversary. So it's what happens, right?
Yeah.
But hey,
Well,
people are into it. Good.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's the reissue of the album for the 30th anniversary. Will that also be a thing that continues on with the next few releases?
I think there's definitely some. It's interesting when you think, oh, well, let's go back and see what's in the cupboard. Like, there's actually not a whole lot of. There's no video. There's not a whole lot of photographs. Um, And there's really not many sort of interesting recordings of sound checks or rehearsals or demos. Like there's not anything. It's surprising when you go and dig back through. Like there's a whole separate archive through our website that our friend has put together. And it has literally combed the world with all the fans of anything that they have, clippings, photographs. Surprising how little is out there. This is pre-internet. Like if someone didn't take a photograph, then it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? But with Ali Daly, has an anniversary next year, there's actually some really interesting recordings which we've found. So, I imagine the punters, if they knew what it was, would definitely want their hands on
How
what I'm
pre-
talking about, which I
mm.
can't talk about.
How precious are you of the original mixes? Because obviously, when these new anniversary editions come through, quite often with a remaster or a remix, sometimes it could sound dramatically different to what the original album stood for. Is this also a way to correct mistakes that you may have picked up on after the first issue was released?
I don't think you should ever remix or remaster anything. I mean, you spend all that time doing it in the first place and you spend that money doing it. Um, it's like when CDs came out, people thought they had to remaster everything just to get that top end in there. And then what happens? 15, 20, 30 years later, you go, oh my God, that thing sounds so toppy. Do you know what I mean? And then you listen to the record from the 70s and oh my God, that thing sounds perfect. So I just believe don't touch anything. If it's made once, it's made for a reason. I don't think you need to do that. I mean, I know people used to remaster just to be able to say it was remastered as another selling point, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think at least we came from an era where things were mixed at the very beginning to come out of big speakers. Now they're mixed to come out of little white
Exactly.
earphones. So
Exactly. They were mixed
it's
to
a
be
whole
as
other
best as
world.
they could.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to these shows. UMI's Hi-Fi Daily Double Down Tour.
Coming at you.
All right. Good to talk to you, Andy.
Okay. Thank you, mate. Take care.